Welcome to another episode of OG55. I got Mr. Conductor. Yeah, that's right. Conductor is back in the house. We are going to talk all about, well, we're going to react to, like we always do here. We're going to react to Hey Bricky and Dave from Fresh Baked in this episode of This Week on Disney. YouTube Conductor is back. Let's get it. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55. In this episode of This Week on Disney YouTube, where we break down and react to a few videos during the past week or so in the Disney community. This week, it's going to be Bricky and Dave from Fresh Baked yet again. But, Conductor, how are you today? I know you've been kind of feeling a little bit under the weather. You feeling a little bit better?
No, I am, and I want to thank you personally because as a awesome, amazing friend and a fellow content creator, since I've been out of the game for a couple days, dealing with this flu that everyone seems to be dealing with across the US, which is very contagious. I have to tell you, when I get sick, and I hardly ever get sick, it knocks me to the ground. And this one ran me to the ground. And I was out I've been out since late Saturday night. And I'm just now getting my voice back. And I'm still dealing with symptoms, but not as bad as it was the last couple days. So I'm so glad to be back. But you can find me on YouTube and Blue Sky at Theme Park Conductor. You can find me on Instagram at theme_park_conductor, on X at Theme Conductor, TikTok at Theme Park Conductor 1, and every Sunday at 5 or 7 p.m. for Conductor Sunday live stream, where we break down Disney and Universal news. We have amazing guests like the one and only Orange Grove 55 and so many others. As we interact with the chat interacts with us. It's a great time. But since I'm still dealing with the symptoms a little bit, I'm still kind of fighting it. Not this coming Sunday, but the following Sunday, I do plan on still having that scheduled Conductor Sunday live stream. Or actually, it'll be Monday. So Monday the 26th, I will have that Conductor Sunday live stream with Orange Grove 55 and Sam Chat, because there will be a lot to talk about.
Oh, yeah, it's been crazy. Today, we got the news that it's official. Kennedy is out. Kathleen Kennedy is out the building, and Filoni and I think her name was Brennan. They're in. So crazy news. I mean, she's, Kennedy was with Lucasfilm since 2012. So it's been a long time, but we'll definitely do some content on that. That's for sure. You and I, for sure. We have a lot of opinions on that, but should we dive into some Bricky? Some Hey Bricky?
Let's do it.
All right. This video is great. This is actually really, really cool. This is a courtesy again of our good friend Hey Bricky. Did Disneyland Forward quietly reveal Epcot coming to California? Okay, this is crazy. So we're gonna play this video. We're gonna break it down. Bricky is here with the educated guess speculation about the future of our resort. You ready to go, Conductor?
Let's do it.
Let's go.
And showed their future plans for Disneyland Forward and what they were projecting they were going to build in the Toy Story parking lot. They showed us something that is very, very familiar. To manage everyone's expectations and to keep real estate prices low, they told everybody, we're going to put in a dining and shopping and light entertainment district. And I do believe that that is a half truth, but it's the other half that has me all the way excited. What Disney showed us was low expectations. It's clearly the second half of the third gate and not meant to be a standalone project. And it's based off of a proven winner. It's one of the best things they've ever designed, and it is a perfect fit for this location's.
Okay, real quick before we go any further. Yeah, this artwork that was released to kind of sell the idea of
Sure.
Disneyland Forward to the city, right? It, a lot of fans were getting mentally married to this art and like, well, nope, it's a shopping district. That's all it's going to be. You know, and Bricky breaks it down as to why that's not the case. But I don't want to get ahead of myself here. But the thing is that when it comes to that, when it comes to this particular project, Disney was never going to reveal their entire hand out the gate, especially a third park. I mean, you're trying to win approval with the neighbors, the residents. You're trying to win approval with these people in the area. You're trying to get approval from the businesses in the city. The last thing you want to do is spook them with, oh, another park is coming. It was hard enough getting what they got, right? If they would have led with, hey, third park as well, it would have been 1,000 times harder getting this done. So it was smart of them to really tap down, minimize, pull back on their actual plan, which is a third park, and just say, hey, look, you know, we got a cute little Disney Springs area over here, no big deal, and keep your plans close to your chest. Because here's the thing, this area was zoned for theme parks years ago. I think even back with Michael Eisner, it used to be a strawberry field. They bought it during the Eisner era. I think it's been zoned for theme parks for a really, really long time. So Disney doesn't need this rezoned. It was already zoned, but they probably needed some other zoning, like retail and shopping, maybe some other stuff in there. So that's why they focused on the shopping and all that stuff. But it also prevented them from spooking the city with the third park, which could have gotten the residents and everybody all frazzled, you know. But what say you, Conductor? Curious your thoughts on this.
No, absolutely. You know, it's kind of weird because you make an excellent point. They don't want to give everything out right away because we're talking what, 2030 at the minimum. They would even consider touching this area. You know, you got so many other projects for the Disneyland Resort that they have ongoing projects with. The Toy Story lot is the least of their concerns at this point. So that's why when you look at the concept art, it is very vague. And that's why a lot of people automatically jumped on the bandwagon and said, yep, this is a downtown Disney 3.0, and we don't want that. It's like, well, again, they're not going to reveal, you know, every single thing that's going to be in this third gate whenever it does come, but we're years and years away from them even touching that area. So
Right.
if things can change, I the way I see it, I don't know. The way I'm looking at it is that when we've had festivals at DCA over the years, and I'm talking before they started cutting back. You have Festival of Holidays, you have Lunar New Year, you have Food and Wine. I have to tell you, it's always packed. Like, I mean, DCA is pretty well packed.
Right.
And it's because of those festivals, or at least a good portion of it is because of those festivals. So I think, you know, by them trying to build an Epcot or a version of Epcot on a way smaller scale in this third gate is not such a bad idea. Because think
No,
about it. You know, you could typically move all the festivals over there to the third gate. It looks like you still have like kind of like a water lagoon area. So if they wanted to build another World of Color area in that lagoon for like a little show, or put like a drone show over there or something like that,
right.
that'd be amazing.
Mm.
I'm not opposed to that.
No, me neither. Well, and he breaks it down. We're going to get into this video. He breaks it down. I think the idea of a WESTCOT, and I've been a big proponent of WESTCOT. I've on this channel, video after video after video. It's almost like a meme how much I want WESTCOT to come to California. but we'll break it down because he gets into this. But yeah, this whole thing about it being another shopping district was never going to be the case. You already have Garden Walk, you already have downtown Disney. The OC Vibe is going to open right next to the Honda Center, which is another shopping entertainment district. The last thing Disney's going to do is do another one of those right across the street from all of that. So it was always going to be a third park. They just didn't want to spook the city. They didn't want to spook the businesses. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Restriction. Like, it just checks all of the boxes. You can't tell me, you cannot convince me that this won't be anything other than a theme park. So currently this space is close to residential areas, light commercial, and hotels. We're just going to assume for the course of this video that they don't sell. And with that assumption, we're also going to keep in mind that the natural restrictions of this project would be a park that needs to be a little bit quieter, a little more mellow, and play well with its neighbors. But I think there's already a perfect case study of a masterful Disney park that already embodies everything that they're showing us in this concept artwork and everything that this park needs to be. Now, one of the things that we do on this channel is we study Disneyland's past so that we can better predict its future. And when we look in Disneyland's past, what is the comparable that they have built before? To me, the greatest comparable that exists in the company's portfolio would be none other than World Showcase. The relaxing, quiet stroll of entertainment, shopping, and dining that sits on the backside of Epcot. I believe this concept artwork is a version of that. Let me explain. Let me first break down the concept artwork, show you everything the way that I'm reading it. We'll compare it to World Showcase. We'll also compare it to where I think they originally took a lot of inspiration from this idea from, and how I believe that this is going to be an evolved version of WESTCOT coming to the Disneyland Resort, which was going to be a massive version of Epcot that was going to be built where DCA is right now. That all got scrapped. They did something way less ambitious, but I do believe that some of that sitemap has been reworked to fulfill an obligation for this plot of land. Now, building number one is something to kind of throw you off the scent, because
now, real quick, before he dives into the nitty gritty here, yeah, the WESTCOT concept, which was basically Epcot World Showcase, but not the it wouldn't be the countries, it would be the continents, right? And it was a beautiful, I mean, everyone at home, we don't have time here today to go through all the details of WESTCOT, but do yourself a favor and search it. I mean, the stuff that they had planned for that park was absolutely incredible. But conductor, to your point, we have a massive locals market here, right? You tap into that food festival, drink around the world kind of culture in a big way in this WESTCOT park, and you clearly have a winner here. Now, I do have a big caveat, and I'll kind of get into it a little bit later. As much as I want this to happen, I don't think it will happen, and I'll explain why a little bit later as we get through the video. But I mean, honestly, it makes the most sense out of everything just because of, like I said, the locals, the drink around the world stuff. It's a beautiful, beautiful concept. It's different. It sets itself apart from Disneyland and DCA, but we'll see. But we'll let Bricky take over, and we'll keep going.
It's just filler in this concept artwork. It's wrapped in trees, so that would make you think that it's backstage, but it also, in my estimation, is right in the spot where the grand entryway to this park will be. And again, further in our tour, Building 11 looks like it would be an administration building or maybe a placeholder, depending on if other companies buy, would that be more backstage space? But those two buildings, definitely I'm going to throw out right away as things to keep us off the scent. And then there's one more piece of that. Friends, there's a huge parking garage in this artwork. This park will not need a parking garage because there's a massive one that's getting built on the other side of Garden Walk. And so therefore, that parking garage is not needed. Buildings 2 and 3 that you see in the front, I believe these will create a retail breezeway into the second half of this park. Think about it. All of the Disney parks typically have a Main Street USA type of area that you come into, just a little place to kind of set your bearings, take the crowd, thin it out, and get everybody prepared for what comes next. But just that sort of reset moment before you get into the heart of the park. So over in the far corner, these buildings 4 and 5, they look to me like it's dining. And then the dining area is offset by 6 across from it, which looks like it's retail. And what this is doing is it's making a corridor on the far edge of the park that will separate what's on the other side of building 6 for that center park. It's very important to keep that space, that celebrational space, kind of close to its neighbors and not elongated. So this back corridor where we're kind of double tracking in the park looks to me where it would probably be dining. Maybe if there is an attraction back here, it'd be something a little bit lighter and subdued, but without purchasing any of the commercial property behind it, I don't see this being a entertainment part of the park as far as attractions go, more of a dining and shopping breezeway that will work you over to where I think the real entertainment for this part of the park will exist. Is once we get to building 7 and around the horseshoe, these are pavilions. Just like World Showcase, these are different areas where they can bring in a host country or a host theme if they don't go 1 for 1. But you should think of each one of these buildings that I have numbered as a area where they'll either put in a specific IP, if the park is all based off of Disney's intellectual property, or if it does go a traditional Epcot, you would think of each of these as being different countries or different districts. Don't know that they'd be isolated countries because...
Okay, here's the thing, right? And we've talked about this a lot, where the single land IP, the single land IP, the single IP lands, do they still make sense? And maybe in Florida they do, because Florida has a bajillion acres to work with, right? But out here in California, we don't got a bajillion acres to work with, and especially not in this particular parking lot. So if I was Disney, I would opt for lands that you could fit multiple IPs into those lands. If this is going to be a pretty compact park, probably maybe a little smaller than DCA. You don't want to have an entire area just for Frozen, an entire area just for Zootopia. I think that you would want to have these lands be able to house multiple things. Like, for example, if they do go the WESTCOT route, if you had, Asia, for example, right? You want to do the continents, you do Asia. You can put Mulan, Raya the Last Dragon, Big Hero 6. You can fit multiple Disney IPs into that into that Asian pavilion. That makes more sense to me with the minimum amount of space that they have than it would be to have an entire land based on an IP. That's just how I see it. And even if they don't do WESTCOT, I still think they need to go that route. That should be the model really going forward after Pandora, because I think you have to make the best use of all this space. They spent a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get that Disneyland Forward land. You got to maximize that land. And you can't be blowing like 10, 15 acres on one IP anymore. Those days are over, I think. Now in Florida, you can do that. They got so much space out there, it doesn't even matter. But out here in California, they got to be really choosy and really efficient with how they kind of space this stuff out. But what say you, conductor?
So I agree with all that. My thing that I would like to see, if they do embrace the WESTCOT idea, is take turn this WESTCOT into what Epcot is with the World Showcase and all that, and having all the festivals, and get it out of DCA. I think we can all agree when to be honest with you, before pre-COVID, when we had the festivals in DCA, it was packed. I mean, it was packed, and there's nothing wrong with that, because it generates money for DCA. It shows that people actually do invest into that park. And what I mean by invest is spend money in that park. But if they're going to build a WESTCOT, move all the festival stuff over there, and then maybe instead of just having the 3 festivals, Festival of Holidays, Lunar New Year, and Food and Wine, why don't you come up with some other ones?
Well,
Just like
yeah,
Epcot does. Have some new festivals and incorporate it over there. Make it a selling point. There's
right.
nothing wrong with that. And then leave DCA for theme park. I'm fine with that if you want to do that.
Yeah,
But
no, I am too. I'm completely fine with that. I mean, you know, because DCA was designed. DCA honestly I don't think that park was really designed to have the amount of festivals that it has. It kind of has a poor layout in my opinion, as theme parks go. With this new park, whether it's WESTCOT or something else, it can be purpose built with festivals in mind, which I don't think DCA was, because I think the festival kind of trend kind of hit after DCA even opened.
sure.
But I think that you're absolutely right, Connector. Like, you put the festivals here. The festivals usually center around different cultures and stuff anyway, right? Like you were saying, like Lunar New Year, which is coming up, right? And you can have these great celebrations for, you know, Lunar New Year and like Cinco de Mayo and all this cool stuff, man. It would be super cool. You can purpose build this whole park for that, and I think it would really work. And you can still have, you know, some sort of events or what have you at DCA still, but the focus and the festivals and all that stuff really should be, the bulk of that stuff should be in this new park.
No, 100%. And if they do build any attractions, you know, again, I don't know if Disney at some point will come out and say, hey, we're going to build attractions in this 3rd gate. I don't know if the residents are going to push back. They might. And if they do, and Disney still is gung-ho about building attractions in this 3rd gate, we might see a lot of attractions indoors.
Yes, I think that's the plan, because it's going to have, like Bricky was saying, it's going to have the WESTCOT sort of design, right, with the buildings all around the perimeter. That is not an accident. That is definitely, especially in this particular spot, a great way to block out the theme park noise and hustle and bustle from everything else. So you're going to get a lot of indoor dark rides, a lot of, you know, boat rides and things like Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway and things like that. This park will be heavy in that. You're not going to get like an Incredicoaster in this park. I can promise you that. That's way too loud. It's way too close to everything around it. It's going to be mostly all indoors, which I'm fine with that, because that's what Disney does. I want to see more indoor stuff, because the indoor stuff is usually more themed anyway, you know? So
exactly.
The sponsorship deal never really came together, but they might do themed districts in which they would pick an area on the map, use intellectual property for attractions and merchandise, but try to put food of that culture, that region, in that district. So Pavilion 7 would sit over here in this back corner. I have a little bit of extra information for that one, and Pavilion 8 that would be over in this corner. What makes 7 interesting is in this concept artwork, it has an internal courtyard. So think of the England Pavilion or the front half of the France Pavilion, where they've kind of created a little world inside of a world. And then 8 in the far east south corner, this one looks very familiar to some of the WESTCOT artwork we saw. And actually, between the two of these, we could be looking at 2 standalone pavilions, the way that it's illustrated right now, but on space-wise, it could be more around 5 to 3. So there's definitely room over here for these areas to be bigger than what they're drawing right now as kind of isolated areas. Now, Pavilion 9 that would sit in this back corner, this one has really, really deep backstage space. So when we think about anchor attractions that need a lot of room for show buildings, this one right here is so far the most optimistic space that we've seen for them to put in, you know, a real anchor for this park and what it offers. And that show building would be backed up to other commercial buildings, not near residents of Orange County. So you notice the area that cleverly has the biggest backstage is also in one of the most commercial districts. That's kind of how you know that this concept artwork isn't just something to show the media. There is thought and intention applied to what we're looking at. In Pavilion 10,
yeah, and I agree with him on that. I think they're trying to sort of give a generalized idea, right? But in terms of the finished product, what I was trying to say, like with the finished product and the way the buildings look, and even like, you know, slight positionings and all that, I do think it's gonna differ greatly, because I think this is much more of a vague idea, so to
Well,
speak.
it was, well, you said it right at the beginning of Bricky's video. It was something to sell the city on. It was something to sell the citizens of Anaheim on. Again,
Right.
they're not, I firmly believe that they're not going to touch this Toy Story parking lot for this third gate until at least 2030. So again,
Oh
things
yeah.
can change.
Yeah, we're talking 15 years, I think. I don't think
Oh,
this is Yeah, I don't think this is coming anytime soon. I think we'll get a new Tomorrowland before we get this thing.
I would hope.
Yeah, me too. I would hope so. I would hope so. But yeah, I think in general, I see what Bricky's saying here, where like they're giving us like a hint, right? Like they're giving us like, hey, wink, wink. But it's a vague, conceptualized hint. I don't think that the buildings, the stylings, and all that stuff really matter in the artwork, but the idea of a park that has this general layout, maybe with the water in the middle and then the building surrounding it, I think that format is definitely what they're going for with this park, because they have to. Because like Bricky said, it's surrounded by businesses and people's homes. You know, you have to have that big buffer. So yeah,
No,
it's interesting.
100%. And I think D23, either in 2028 or 2030, we will hear something about this, because I think what Disney's plans are, to be honest with you, is to get the 2 Avengers of Campus attractions open, to
Right.
get the Coco Dark Ride open, and at least be halfway through construction, hopefully, on Avatar, or at least started of it, before they announce another round of expansions for the Disneyland Resort. And when that time comes, I can guarantee you that the third gate will be mentioned. It might not be talked about a lot, because I do think that second round of updates and expansions is going to include the Simba parking lot. It's going to include what's going to go into the Lilo and Stitch parking lot, and it's going to include Tomorrowland. I'd be shocked if they don't mention anything about Tomorrowland.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing too, and I really want to do a video with you on this topic as well. I did a video yesterday with theme park philosophy, aka Slimer, Jared from Capture the Magic, and Jay Shear, right? And we were talking about like that Wall Street Journal Imagineering article. And then how a few days later we got this news about, you know, Galaxy's Edge, you know, doing exactly what the fans have been asking for 7 years. You know, and then now we get the news today, Kathleen Kennedy is leaving. We were talking in that video how it seems like Josh Giamaro might already be making decisions. He's not publicly confirmed yet, but internally he's the guy. They know he's the guy. We're seeing a lot of change happen at Disney right now. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I think they've made a decision. It's probably Josh. And first of all, that Wall Street Journal article was total PR. That was Josh Giamaro PRing the hell out of everything. I mean, and look, to his credit, I mean, the dude is a smart executive, but he strategically, you know, gave us an optimistic future in that article, but then at the same time separated himself and distanced himself from Bob Chapek and that whole mess, right? So I think it was Josh's team who put that article out. That's just my conspiracy theory, but that's what I think. But I think right now Josh is making decisions. I do, and I think the Kathleen, right? I think Kennedy leaving. I think this whole thing with the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, all this stuff, right? So Josh wants to make moves, and he wants to make big moves. When he gets in there officially, you're going to see him make a lot of big moves. All these executives, they always want to put their stamp on things right out the gate. So it's possible. It's possible. Like after he gets in, and after maybe like a year or two, I don't know, maybe he does announce a third park. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see. But Tomorrowland, though, I think that's more likely. I do think that that's a move he could do even at D23. If he's the next CEO and they announce it before then, a new Tomorrowland would go a huge way for building that fan trust. I mean, and you're going to want that early on for sure.
Sure.
Right. And that's what Bob Iger did. Right. I mean, when he got in there, one of the first things he did, he bought Pixar. And then he got Oswald back. I mean, he was doing all kinds of he was giving us all kinds of red meat and olive branches when he first came into Disney, because he wanted the fans to know, hey, I'm good. You can trust me, right? Josh is going to play that same kind of game. So I think we're going to see some big stuff when he gets in that seat. I'm telling you, we could get Tomorrowland. We'll see.
Would be another deep backstage pavilion, which means they could put something truly immersive and very well thought out here. Pavilion 10 takes advantage of where cars load in right now, and this part of the parking lot that sort of protrudes out like a peninsula. That area you can see is all cleverly being put inside of what we're talking about, Pavilion 10. So this back corner could have a couple of back-to-back real bangers of attractions. Where I'm standing right now is the dead center of the parking lot. It's where you get on the buses. This is roughly where you'll see in the concept artwork something that I'm going to nickname WESTCOT Park. Along the lagoon, you will see what I believe are either temporary or permanent food booths, kiosks, things for different festivals that would come through a park like this, or maybe some permanent stands of light retail, light food vending all around a sizable body of water. Now, the original site plan had a Spaceship Earth-like attraction in the center of it. This one notably will not have a Spaceship Earth in the center of it. And I also believe that eventually when they build it, it'll have nothing in the dead center, reserving the dead center for this area's nighttime entertainment offerings. And there's a little something that you'll notice just south of this body of water, which is an open space where the drones will be able to fly in. Due to the restrictions of what they will build here, it'll need to be a little bit quieter, a little bit more mellow of a park. So I would fully anticipate a drone launch pad that would bring in a nighttime show that would happen right here in the dead center, WESTCOT Park. And then
See, I like that. I like that a lot, because again, that separates this park from the other two. Disneyland has fireworks. DCA has a water fountain show. And this third park, maybe WESTCOT, will be more drone show heavy. Each park has its own little flavor. I like that. Now, in terms of not having like a centerpiece, I'm not sure about that. Like, I mean, if they do WESTCOT, yeah, I think they might have something in the middle. But I agree with him, though. I don't think it'll be a Spaceship Earth. The WESTCOT initially had a gold one, and I remember the city had a fit over that. That was, and mind you, that was like, what was it, like 30 years ago now? But like,
Sure,
I just can't see Anaheim approving something that massive sitting in the middle of Anaheim like that. But I could see some sort of structure, maybe like
the spire. We were
yes.
So instead of having the spear, because also people in Florida are like, "What, are you trying to copy us with the West Coast version of Epcot?" No. Epcot's staying where it's at. You're not getting the version. So to eliminate that problem, Eisner and the team, or whoever it was back in the day, they're like, okay, let's get rid of the spaceship Earth building and put a giant spear, and that would work perfect, because if you have a giant spear like that, you can have projections off of it, and it can interact with the drone show. So
Right.
you get the best of both worlds.
Yes. And actually there's two examples of something that I would think would be pretty cool. At Epic Universe, they have the Crony, I think it's called the Cronus, the Cronius.
Yes. Yeah.
And it has little symbols of all the different lands. So it has like a little Mario, it has a How to Train Your Dragon, it has a Harry Potter, right?
Yes.
Which is really cool. And so it is one structure, has all these little symbols of what all these little lands represent. But you also have something very similar with Animal Kingdom with the Tree of Life. You have that giant tree, and you're going to see it in a couple months. But that giant tree is made up of all these little hand-carved animals, dude. The trunk is all animals, right?
Wow.
I wouldn't be surprised if we get like a Cronios or a Tree of Life sort of centerpiece that has all the different countries or continents symbolized in that structure, you know, as one centerpiece to represent like unity of like all these countries. I think that would be really cool, but I think they will have something in the middle. I just, it won't be the Spaceship Earth though, but it'll be something like that. I think if they do WESTCOT. Now here's the thing. I said I was going to tell you why I don't think they're going to do WESTCOT. So I'll just tell you now. And I want, dude, I want WESTCOT so freaking bad. I mean, like really, this is what I want. I want this to be the park, right? But I think realistically, I don't think we're going to get WESTCOT just because I think Disney's mindset as a company is not there, unfortunately. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's possible, but I think Disney, we're probably going to get more of like a Disney version of like Epic Universe where you get a bunch of IP stuff. You know, that's what I think. It'll be a park with a bunch of IP lands. And I think that's the direction they're going to go in. Now, I could be wrong. To be fair, we have seen Bruce Vaughn, you know, come out and make comments, and even Jared Bush recently talking about how original content is so important for Disney animation and things like that. Maybe Disney will get back into kind of doing more original stuff. And maybe original stuff in the theme parks where, you know, we don't have everything based on IP. Maybe, right? Maybe. I think even in that article at Wall Street Journal, they even talked about that, if I'm not mistaken, about how everything is IP driven or whatever. So maybe that's a signal that they want to kind of move away from that a little bit and dabble with some non-IP stuff. If they dabble, this is the way to go. I'm just not that confident that Disney's going to do a non-IP park. Now, granted, like we said, you can sprinkle IP in here. I just don't know if that's good enough for Disney. It works for Epcot because they're stuck with Epcot. So they're doing what they have to do to put the IP in that existing park. But if you're building something from the ground up, do you build something from the ground up with not like without the maximum IP thing? I just don't know if Disney's going to do that. But again, this thing is 10 or 15 years away. So the mindsets could be completely different. But that's the only reason why I think WESTCOT is not likely. And it breaks my heart to say that just because I feel like this is what I want, you know? But what I will say this, whether it's WESTCOT or whether it's Disney's Epic Universe, whatever they do here, it'll have this layout. It'll have the buildings, the structures on the outer perimeter with a centerpiece like this. This is the layout and the format of this park 100%. That's what I agree with Bricky on 100%. This is what they're planning on doing. You have to do it this way. You have to. So we'll see.
Right back here where the lagoon breaks, this would obviously be backstage. There will be a service road that goes around the entire park. But back in here is where I would anticipate that where that gap in the concept artwork gives drones the ability to fly out over WESTCOT Park and perform the nightly show. The current illustration that we're looking at right now gives space or winks at a potential half a dozen attractions, like sizable attractions. There could be small flat rides put all throughout, but once Garden Walk comes into play, that changes everything. But there would be some considering factors on all of this. Like what they've illustrated right now is based on what Disney owns. So the pavilions on the other side, 7 and 8, that I said could be broken up into way more than just 2. If they do get some of the residential owners behind the park to sell, which I fully anticipate that they will, then that area gets even bigger. And still would work with what we're looking at. It would just give them room for more backstage operations, more entertainment. But I do like that they're keeping the artwork kind of conservative based on what they actually own at this moment. So now let's look at the WESTCOT original site plan. Friends, if you're enjoying today's breakdown, this is what we do on this channel. We study Disneyland's past, so we're better equipped to predict its future. If you're enjoying this, make sure you subscribe so you can keep going on these adventures with me. Now back to our video. Now notice, it's not identical, but there are strong similarities in its overall shape and its purpose.
See, he's right on. He's 100% right on that. He's not wrong. It is very, very similar. I'm telling you, if Disney does this, if Disney pulls the trigger and builds WESTCOT, I swear to you, conductor, that will be the biggest mic drop in the history of the Walt Disney Company.
I think so. You know, I would I would love it, and I'm going to get a better idea of this WESTCOT idea when I go in March to Walt Disney World, and one of those days I'm out there, I go to Epcot and I soak that all in, and then I come back home just like with Avatar, and I come back home to Walt's original Magic Kingdom, and I start walking around. I'm like, okay, now I can actually visualize what, you know, Bricky and everyone else is talking about and get a better idea. Because again, I think just WESTCOT is such a brilliant idea, not just for rides and attractions, not just for meet and greets, but for just it kind of, how can I put it? It kind of is something that DCA has been trying to do since it opened back in 2001,
Right.
and has never been able to accomplish. Don't get me wrong. I still kind of feel DCA is an adults park. I do feel that, but it's no WESTCOT. And the thing is, you can incorporate festivals into DCA. You can have, you know, all these restaurants with alcoholic drinks and all that, but it's no WESTCOT. Now they have a perfect opportunity to have a third gate and build an actual WESTCOT that would actually accomplish that goal of kind of like a vibes park, like you and Bricky love to have.
Yeah.
And still have lands, or I mean, still have attractions, but it's more based off of, you know, different countries. Then you kind of have the vibes of different pavilions. You have different festivals over the year. It's just such a perfect idea. And one thing I could tell you is if that happens, Garden Walk is no longer going to exist. I really honestly do believe at some point that $60 billion that Disney promised to spend over the next 10 years, I think Garden Walk is going to be part of that $60 billion. And I've told you and I've told George a bunch of times, I said it would be a perfect opportunity to build a hotel, which I know Disney wants to do. They want to build another one, build it like the contemporary out in Walt Disney World, extend the monorail out here, have the monorail go right through the hotel, and have an actual station located at this hopefully third gate WESTCOT, and then have another station located in the Simba parking lot for DCA.
Yeah.
It'd be perfect because people have been asking for that, even though people are like, they'll never do that. It's too expensive. I do agree it's expensive, but if you're going to add a whole nother third gate, that's a perfect excuse to expand it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, look, I mean, you know, it's crazy, right? It's crazy. Like I I would be over the moon if they did this. If they put this WESTCOT in here, I'd be over the moon. But you have to do it really good though. You can't
Sure.
you can't. I mean, the plans for WESTCOT were incredible, dude. And obviously it was a super ambitious park. They're probably not going to be able to do everything they wanted to do. And I understand that, right? But they got to come hard though. I mean, they got to come super hard. If you're going to put WESTCOT, if you're going to have WESTCOT in this resort, you got to bring it. You know, this park has to be exceptional. And it would be great too, because let's just say hypothetically we get WESTCOT and they sprinkle some of these IPs into the various countries and continents.
Sure.
That is a different flavor though than what you have at DCA. DCA has become an IP park. You know, it has. And now this one will be a little different than that. So that's cool. I don't know, man. It would be great. I don't have that much faith that they're going to do it, but we'll see, you know?
Well, see, the problem is I have the opposite effect. I do have the faith in WDI. I think WDI is still recovering from the Bob Chapek years, because now after, reading that Wall Street Journal's article and watching other people report on that article and give their opinions, I didn't realize how much Chapek did damage to WDI and forced a lot of creative Imagineers out. So I think this time around, and I'm not saying it was all Bob Chapek.
No,
like I mean there were suspects like Bob Iger, and I still think to this day, and I've never publicly stated it, and I'll probably get in trouble for saying it, but I think the board has too much decision making on what goes on in the parks. Because I feel that if you're going to have a board that is going to be making mass decisions, say, or telling WDI, we love the model you came up with, the land, but we have to scratch about half of it off. It's like, then why have a CEO? And that's another thing too. If you are a CEO of a company, doesn't matter if it's Walt Disney World, or Walt Disney Company, or it's Comcast or WB, or so on and so on. You can't be the CEO and you can't be a sitting board member. It's either one or the other. Because if you were what Bob Iger was, where he was a CEO and he was, a chairman of the board, it's like then he has all creative control, and then he has minions on the board agreeing with them. It's like, no. You have to have separation, which that's what I want, but I also want the board. I also want the board to be limited, a lot more limited on their influence on projects. And I think that between what happened during the Bob Chapek era, with Bob making decisions that were controversial and the board kind of going along with it and not putting an end to it, I think they're both responsible, because the board had too much power and they let Chapek do some things that were incredibly damaged to WDI and the Imagineers.
Yeah, no, that whole thing, Chapek was not a great CEO. At the same time, though, you're right. A lot of this was Bob Iger. It was. And a lot of it was stuff that they couldn't even control, like the pandemic. So it was a perfect, I kind of brought this up in the video that I did with Jay last night and Jared and everybody. It was kind of a perfect storm of like bad things kind of happening at that time, but everyone just kind of wants to blame Chapek. I don't know. I don't think Chapek was great. He was not, but I'm not going to put all of it on him, because I don't believe it was all him. So yeah, no, well said.
This new concept artwork, I believe, is definitely inspired by the original concept.
Yeah.
And once you can get past looking at the size reduction and no spaceship Earth, and just kind of look at the overall geometry and flow of what they drew for the Toy Story parking lot, it really starts to make sense that for all of the restrictions that this park will have, this is the perfect fit for what Disney needs to offer something new to its guests, but also round out the offerings of Anaheim. With OC Live popping up, Downtown Disney already existing, with the decline of retail, you can't tell me Disney's making a mall here unless you look at World Showcase as a very intelligent and sophisticated mall. And I don't think I'll argue with you if that's the way that you see it.
Well, and here's the thing too. A mall doesn't justify, and I've been saying this the whole time, Disney probably wants to do another hotel.
Yeah.
You put a mall here, you can't, that's not going to justify a fourth Disney resort hotel. It has to be a theme park if you want to do another hotel. It has to be. And so if you do a theme park, you can also do your hotel somewhere close by, and you still have your retail and stuff because the park is going to print money with the merchandise. So, you know, it's a win-win all around. If you do just merchandise and retail, you kind of lose. And Bricky's right. I mean, you know, brick and mortar retail has been dying. I mean, we saw Westminster Mall out there in Orange County just closed down like a few months ago. You know, a lot of malls across the country are closing down. You know, very few, like even Forever 21. I mean that store was hugely successful for so many years. They went out of business. Sears out of business. I mean, there's Toys R Us. Well, Toys R Us is weird. I don't know. It keeps coming back, but then going away. It's kind of weird, but basically out of business, right? So, but like it just, the retail thing isn't going to work here. They're not going to do that again. No. And like he said, OC Vibe, and you got Garden Walk and Downtown Disney and all that. It's just too much. It's way too much. And he's right though too. Another thing, that the aerial shot of this artwork and WESTCOT, like he said, they're not identical, but dang, they're close. They are real. I didn't realize how similar they look, and that's pretty wild.
Remember we talked about a parking garage that was showing up? That's either going to be a significant backstage space or potentially a massive attraction. But there'll be no reason for a parking garage right there when the parking garage for this park is the new Eastern Gateway parking garage that's being built, where you'll have two options. You can go west and go into Disneyland and DCA, or you can choose to go south and walk in to WESTCOT. Because when eventually Disneyland does absorb Garden Walk, then you have the other missing piece of the puzzle for what comes next. A potential another 4 to half a dozen attractions. Garden Walk will transform beautifully into the future world of this park. Don't think that it'll actually be that name, but just kind of off of our working model of how Epcot works. And then you would come across a breezeway, whether it would be over a bridge, probably don't see a tunnel happening here, that would bring you in to everything that they already showed us. And once that piece of property is purchased, then they fully have enough space here to make an amazing version of WESTCOT, but one I think that could be a perfect neighbor for Anaheim, and the way that all three parks will be connected together by the Eastern Gateway parking garage, it just makes so much sense. So what I think we're looking at here.
He's right. It makes total sense. It makes all the sense in the world. Yeah. And here's the thing. I've been saying this for a real long time. I think Bricky has been saying this on his videos too. You're never going to find this many acres in one spot in Anaheim ever again. Ever again. They're never going to find, and unless they acquire the Anaheim Convention Center or the Angels Stadium, which I guess they can do. I guess they can do that. But it's unlikely. I mean, they own this land. It's zoned for theme parks. You know, it's going to be a theme park.
When it all gets done and Garden Walk gets absorbed, a dozen spaces for nice size attractions, maybe more when we add in the flat rides, plenty of room for restaurants and retail, and a space designated for celebration and nighttime events, nighttime shows. And hopefully today I've done a good job of explaining to you how I'm seeing it. Would love to hear your opinions in the comment section below. Not saying all of this is happening, but I think I am looking at a pretty realistic blueprint for the future. City of Anaheim maybe is playing along with the exact same vision that I have by looking into putting a gondola system all around the city of Anaheim to bring it all together. And guess where it culminates? Right where we're standing, at the home of Disneyland's future third and final park. Watch this video right here. My name is Bricky. Thank you.
So another great video from Bricky. WESTCOT, he's speaking my language. I love WESTCOT. I've always loved WESTCOT. I will never forgive Michael Eisner for walking away from that concept. But like I said so many times on the channel, though, good ideas never die at Disney. I mean, Disney and Walt Disney wanted to do The Little Mermaid, but it happened years later. I think he wanted to do Beauty and the Beast as well. It happened years later. They talked about doing Snow Queen. That turned into Frozen. These ideas come back. Even a lot of the Raleigh Crump designs for the Haunted Mansion. Some of those designs that didn't make it into the Haunted Mansion were put on the new, I think it's the Disney Destiny, if I'm not mistaken, the new Disney Destiny cruise ship and that Haunted Mansion bar thing. Yeah. So these ideas always get used eventually. So, I mean, I hope, I really do hope, I want Bricky to be right on this. I really, really do. I really hope it is like WESTCOT, like that's the name of the park. That this is the whole idea. It's a World Showcase Park. The countries, the continents. I would love that. I'm just not so sure about Disney and their hunger to do a park that isn't IP from the ground up. I don't know, and I hope I'm wrong on that. That's my only thing that's sort of making me doubt this whole theory as much as I want to happen. But we'll see. But the layout and all that stuff, he's absolutely right. I mean, it's not exactly, but it's pretty close to the WESTCOT one. So,
no, 100%. And before we jump to David's video, I wanted to ask you if there's any way you can bring up Google Maps, because there is something I wanted to show you where this third gate is going to go. And there has been talks for years that, it's been back and forth, that Angel Stadium has been kind of teetering around with them moving to a different location. And you can see right there how massive that is, right?
Right here. Okay. This is Angel Stadium. Can you see my mouse, everybody? Can you see that, conductor?
Yeah, I can see that. So,
okay. So right here.
That is a massive plot of land. And I think they just renewed their license temporarily. It's not a permanent license. I think it was till 2030 or 2035. And then they may move. I don't know that for sure, but if they do, if we look at the third gate area, okay, right there, perfect. Third gate area where we're talking about WESTCOT and Bricky's talking about WESTCOT, and then you look right next door to it where the convention center is. Think about this for a second. If the Angels move Angel Stadium, okay, they get rid of that stadium, massive footprint, right? They move, and I know it's hypothetical and spectacle, but they move the convention center and all that stuff and move it to the Angel Stadium footprint.
Right.
Now we can either have a fourth park or we can expand WESTCOT.
No, that's actually a great idea. I would love to see that happen. They're very ambitious. Maybe they'll do it one day. I hope they would, because you're right. The convention center area is a sizable area. You could probably fit a park here. You could probably work that in. You move the convention center over here, or you can even. I mean, it would be kind of a pain in the butt in terms of like transport and stuff. But maybe you can even build a fourth park in the Angel Stadium lot. And do like what Universal does over in Florida with like the buses or something, but ideally you're right. It would be better if it was right across the street, but that's interesting, conductor. That's very interesting. But you can see, I mean, this is a pretty good area. This is what Bricky was talking about today. This whole little area right here is that third park. So we'll see, but yeah, great. Another great video from Bricky. We love Bricky. Bricky is, really a just top tier guy. So make sure everybody at home, I'll be linking his channel down below. Make sure you subscribe and show him all the love. All right, you ready, conductor, for Dave Fresh Baked?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Here we go.
Disneyland is quietly feeling it today, more so than usual. From Catella to downtown Disney, even the sudden breakdown of the monorail on Thursday night. How will these recent events affect the average guest at Disneyland? Let's tour the park and find out in this week's Disneyland Construction Update. That's our walk down Catella Drive as we approach the corner of Catella and Disneyland Drive. Looking for any kind of signs this week, we found these trucks, an array of these like moving type trucks, not big trucks, but smaller trucks, a whole bunch of these located along that stretch. Those were located around or behind Incredicoaster. We're going to find out if that means anything in the future. Arriving at the corner of Catella and Disneyland Drive, we can see that that fence is still in place. It looks like it's sort of made an incremental update. It looks like they are getting ready for something, though there's no visible action as of yet. Have not seen anything going on behind that fence so far. The sidewalk is still closed off on Disneyland Drive. And although the Christmas holiday season is over, those trees still have their lights on them. When those lights come down, I'm going to be watching those. When those lights come off the trees, or if they do, then we know that there's something about to happen with those trees.
Now, it's difficult to say if those trucks that we saw over there are related or not to, the Coco expansion. Perhaps they're there to, help unload or move out of those temporary buildings that are right there on the corner. I can say that there has been a lot of action behind Incredicoaster, or even Toy Story Midway Mania, where the queue is. There's been a lot of action back there for the past, 4 weeks or so, maybe 5. They've actually been digging underground. I haven't ever shot it because it's difficult to see through the lens. You can't get through all the trees and stuff. Like you saw how hard it was just to see those trucks. But they were going below grade. They had big cranes and everything out there. And again, I'm not sure if that's a separate project because it's not, Incredicoaster is closing. So I'm not sure if those are related at all, or if that's, well, you know what? That's something we're going to get into. Stay tuned for that, actually. When we get into the park, we're going to talk a little bit more about Incredicoaster, its upcoming closure, and how it could possibly relate to Coco. Look at that. We got some action out here at the right ear. It's happening right now. You could see right here, just from this angle, how much they've already taken. And you can see that excavator, I think. I can't really tell for sure. Like a small one, digging up right there. He's putting stuff in the bin. That's just they're taking soil. That's straight up soil.
Yeah, they're starting. This is they're moving dirt. Literally, they're moving dirt. But this is really cool. But here's the thing, conductor. This is why it's really hard to kind of predict some of this stuff, right? Because honestly, as much as I know this resort like the back of my hand, when I'm looking at when they announced Coco was going to go into this spot, I didn't even realize how much space is back here with the trees next to the sidewalk. I never would have thought they would have dipped into this, So it's kind of interesting how these projects that get announced and then they put and then they say, hey, it's going here. But it's like sometimes Disney works things in weird ways. And for me personally, and maybe other people have predicted it, maybe, I don't know. But like for me, I wasn't expecting any of this. I really didn't think they were going to come out this far to the street. I mean, what were you thinking when they?
Well, see, it's interesting to me because I never thought they would ever go to the street or anywhere close to it. And that's why I commend, and I'm going to represent both sides here. That's why I commend WDI Imagineers that are exclusively for the Disneyland Resort. And when it comes to Universal, for the Universal creative teams that work with Universal Hollywood. Because we got 2 California parks, again, two corporations, and I consider friendly competition to win fans over, but they got two of the biggest parks in Southern California that people love going to, but they have to figure it out like a jigsaw puzzle, how to add new additions to their parks. That's why I have always commended WDI Imagineers that are exclusive for the Disneyland Resort and Universal creatives that work at Universal Hollywood.
Because that physical limitation, Conductor, you're right. That physical limitation breeds creativity.
Yes.
And we've seen it over and over and over again, where it's like, I mean, the whole reason why we have a dope queue for Indiana Jones is because of the physical need to get people under that berm and to that show building on the other side. So we have that really cool, we meander through the temple, but it adds to the theming, but it was that long of a walk because you needed to get underground. Same with the Haunted Mansion, the stretching room. It was because it had to get you underground and outside the berm. So this stuff, these are physical limitations, and our friend Bricky talks about this a lot too. But these are physical limitations that actually, you know, when you have creative people like this working on it, actually kind of like make it like sometimes those physical limitations, something really cool comes out of that, you know? So we might see something really dope here with Coco. I mean, this is an interesting approach to this. So we'll see. I wasn't expecting them to dig back here. So I don't know.
He's picking up. But there's a definite absence of vegetation from this angle. And I don't know if you can hear, because I'm not sure this camera doesn't pick up the sound very well. I don't know if you can hear. There's something digging back there below the fence line. It sounds like it's coming from right about there.
And I'm telling you right now, dude, the energy at Disney has shifted. The energy has absolutely shifted. Like, I think, and we talked about this again on this video I did with Jared and Slimer and everybody last night, but I think Josh has already been chosen as CEO. Oh, and I think he's, I can just feel the energy is shifting with like the aggressiveness of these projects now. You're seeing Kathleen Kennedy leaving now. You're seeing major changes to Galaxy's Edge now. There's just a different vibe happening right now. You know what I'm saying? It just feels like, I don't know, Josh is hungry, man. He's hungry, you know? We'll see.
There's the left ear, as we have known to observe of late, and where the left ear has those trees are gone. So definitely there is reductions happening on the cross. Oh, there's that guy. Is he? Yeah, he's got the little, I think that's like a mini excavator or something, moving stuff into that tree service truck. And then there's the fence has been extended all the way over to that old service road. With that, let's get to the top of the Pixar Place Hotel, where I did screw up the courage I did find a way. I did figure out what was necessary to get to the top of the hotel, and we do, in fact, have a wonderful view of the tree removal that's happening down there. There's that truck we just saw from the ground, and you can see definitely that they have removed.
That's a lot of room. I'm telling you, it's a lot of room.
That's
a lot of the vegetation, a lot of the landscaping, almost all of it. All the trees are gone. It's just down to the last shrubberies that they're removing there. And you can see that little mini excavator we just saw on the ground as well, digging stuff up. There's another piece of equipment there, the yellow guy on the left. Not sure what that's for, but they are definitely, and this is just a small part of that overall process. This is, you know, they got a long way to go to get all of this landscaping removed, but it looks quite invasive. I've heard some people, like, they're expressing sort of some sadness about this, but to be honest, this has never really been part of the Disneyland experience for most guests. Maybe 2% of guests experience this that are going to Disneyland. Everybody else, this is kind of a no story at all in terms.
I agree with Dave. It's a sidewalk.
Yeah, it's a sidewalk to it almost screams Hollywood Boulevard to me, or what was it, Rodeo Drive?
Oh, Rodeo Drive. Yeah, it's like something like that, you know. And it's like, and you don't even really know the Mickey face unless you're like a super Disney nerd, and you can't even see it, and unless you Google it or you're like in a helicopter or something. Like, I don't know. It's a deep cut sort of reference, and most people aren't even aware of it. The attraction, more families will get more out of that attraction than they ever will have gotten out of that Mickey ear that they don't even know existed.
Well, I could see the controversy though, because there are a lot of people that say, well, you guys are destroying a lot of trees and shrubberies, and do keep in mind though, when Disney or Universal or any of these theme parks build new additions to their parks, you always see some type of vegetation come back. They
Right.
do put new vegetation, maybe not as much as there was before, but they do put some back.
They do. They're gonna put some back, and also they are gonna keep some of these and move these trees elsewhere as well. You know, they're not gonna completely just, throw away perfectly good trees. I know when I forgot. I think it was when they were doing. I forgot what project it was, but they actually moved some trees from Disneyland to Cars Land when they built Cars Land. Some of those trees were Disneyland trees. So they're constantly doing this. So yeah, like the bushes and the shrubs are gonna go. But like some of these palm trees almost certainly will be moved somewhere else.
For removing these trees. And there's the second guy digging up back there in the ground. So they are definitely moving towards Catella. We'll come back in the future weeks, hopefully, unless they take this view from us. I said this a lot when we were on the Mickey Friends parking structure for Galaxy's Edge. I will note that this is going to be a good view, hopefully, of Disneyland Forward. It's going to land right there in that parking lot and on that rear parking lot. This is about halfway on the other side of the hotel. That's where the parking lot meets the Disneyland Hotel. And we can also see if anything's happening backside of Boardwalk Pizza and Pasta. That's what we're looking at there. And then off in the distance is the Pixar Palace parking structure. Let's get on it. And there we are on the Pixar Palace parking structure through the magic of editing. That is the Emotional Whirlwind. It is closed also for refurb. It looks like it's just paint and polish. I don't see that they've removed anything. We'll get another look at that later. There is the Coco site, just standing by for anything to happen here at all, standing by for some kind of change. Though there is no change here, there is going to be quite a bit of change evident in the other projects we track later. Stay tuned for the ticket booths, Earl of Sandwich,
I just
that
want
kind
to
of
say
thing.
something real
For
quick.
now,
Yeah.
we're having.
I commend David for going on that Pixar Pal Round because I did it with George. And I tell you what, we weren't even on one of the swinging ones. We're just on one of those, and I hate heights.
Oh, dude.
And George drove me nuts. He's like, God, because he's trying to, film for, his channel and whatnot, and capture this and capture some stuff for Avengers Campus. And he's like, I hate these stupid little metal fencings that surround the.
Oh yeah.
Why we have to have these? Let's get rid of these. Let's just put netting. And I'm like, George, God dang you, stop talking. I'm already shivering as it is because I hate heights. And you're saying shit like that. It drives me nuts.
Oh my God. Yeah, dude. I mean, I am not a fan of this attraction either. I don't think I've ever. I think most of the time I've been on this ride, I've had a couple of drinks prior to it, to take the edge off.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, I need it. I can't. And I've done the swinging ones and everything. Even I mean, I've done the swinging ones. I did go on this once with a tour guide, a Disneyland tour guide. Who, shout out to Jackie, she's amazing. She doesn't work there anymore, but she was like seriously the most amazing cast member ever. But we were on there with tour guide Jackie, and I felt a little safer with Jackie there because she works there. She has the walkie-talkie. If anything happens, we know Jackie can like phone in the backup troops to help us and get us down, But yeah, I'm just not a fan of this. And shout out to Dave. Like honestly, like to get to for him to put himself through this for content is incredible. God bless him. I can't stand this attraction.
Difficulty seeing any kind of action backstage right now at Coco. There again is Emotional Whirlwind. Let's see if I can get a closer look, perhaps.
Were you an emotional whirlwind when you were riding this fun wheel, bro?
Dude, I wasn't like shaking really bad, but I was like sweating. And it was cold that day. And I'm like, my gosh. And again, I know George meant well, but every time he says something like that, I'm like, damn it, George, quiet. Because I'm like, it's just, unless, okay, the only exception to heights for me is if I'm locked in on a restraint system. This, it's like you're in a tiny little box and you have someone next to you that's a dear friend of yours saying all this wild stuff. You're trying to film content, and it's like it's not easy because you have this metal cage that the camera can't really focus through, and then your
Yeah.
phobia of heights and not being securely locked into a restraint system. It's like
Well,
my
and really realistically, even if they gave you a restraint system, let's just say they gave you a seatbelt, right?
I don't think
If
it would help.
no, it wouldn't help. If that cage, God forbid, ever falls, a
Oh, dude,
seatbelt ain't gonna save you, bro. You know what I'm saying?
hell no.
You're toast either way, you know. So yeah, it's scary, and I wouldn't want to get stuck in there either for hours on end, you know. Ugh.
Hell no.
To those gondolas. I want to see if those gondolas are still attached.
I do want to say something
Difficult to
else,
tell,
though.
though. It's all
Sure.
covered in.
And I know David's going to get into this, but I wanted to point it out. I honestly do believe the reason why Emotional Whirlwind and the Incredicoaster are both down right now is one, the Incredicoaster needs a lot of TLC. The Emotional Whirlwind needs some TLC, not as much. But I think the main reason why these two attractions are down is because as they're digging those planters out just outside the gates behind the backstage area for Coco, I honestly do believe they're going to tap into some of the underground wiring that possibly could feed some of these attractions. And, you know, if they are doing that by ripping out the shrubbery and, you know, working on that underground infrastructure, you don't want people on the credit coaster. Emotional Whirlwind, that's a little bit different, but the credit coaster mainly, you don't want that ride to be going on and people get stuck on it because something that they're trying to access for Coco,
Right.
you know, they touch a wire or something that they accidentally shouldn't have, and then the coaster shuts off.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's absolutely connected. These downtimes are connected. They're working in and around this coaster, in and around the Emotional Whirlwind, and they're using what is a necessity, having to shut these down because of the Coco stuff. They're using it as a time to refurb and refresh these attractions while they're down anyway, in my opinion.
And shade and shadow, but it doesn't look like they have been removed, best I can tell. We mentioned Incredicoaster earlier when walking up Catella Avenue. Incredicoaster is closed, part of a month-long refurb. It'll be closed until the beginning of February. What we can see here is they're actually painting. That's new paint down there on the track. Looks like they repainted the door. We see cast and crew throughout this location. There's actually crew down there working on the launch, the Incredicoaster launch. But again, I feel like this is routine maintenance. And actually, I'm not even positive, to be honest, that this is the actual goal of this closure. I feel like they're doing these things because they have an opportunity to do that, because the attraction is being closed for some other reason. As we come through the threshold of Incredicoaster, we can see some scrim up, which is curious. We don't often see scrim. This is at the point, I believe, just before you.
And I hope they're painting. I hope this means they're painting. This ride needs a paint job like you wouldn't believe. I mean, it is such bad show. So I hope they're, please paint it.
Do the loop. But scrim is up on Incredicoaster. I mentioned those trucks and the action that I've seen happen backstage. That there's been a lot going on back there, and I kind of feel like the Incredicoaster is closing not to do this routine maintenance, because they just had a closure and they were doing a lot of maintenance then as well. I think this may be related. This closure may actually be related to the Coco expansion and what they're doing backstage. They have to close it in order for them to do some other necessary work backstage, and then they'll bring it back online in a month. So perhaps when this is done, when the Incredicoaster closure is done in February, that's when we might see some visible action start happening on the Coco side of things. One thing leads to another, and it's all part of a sort of incremental order of operations type plan that is typical of most construction projects. Checking out the track here, this is the launch, and you can't see it. There's more scrim at that launch. That's not repair. You can smell the paint.
Oh,
you
good.
can see where there's white paint right there. That's new. That's fresh. This is just to paint. That scrim is just to paint the track. They're not doing any sort of maintenance on the track as far as I can tell. So that's sort of the first layer of stress that this project is putting the park in. The Coco project is causing delays, causing possibly closure time for the Incredicoaster. Meanwhile, there's more stress happening in downtown Disney. That is an excavator on the site that formerly was the ticket booths number 7 and 8. And where he's operating right now is, I would say, approximately that paved area that existed outside of the proper seating area at Earl of Sandwich, but before you reach the ticket booths. And judging by the way that excavator is looking and moving toward, I would say, well, now he's actually getting pretty close to Earl's there. This is to dig up concrete on the ground surface. They've taken out all the trees, and we'll look at that a little bit more when we get to the backside. But it looks like they've taken out just about all of the trees. And there you go. There's the dust kicking up. That's the ground that they're digging up the concrete and the ground. There's Earl of Sandwich on the right. There's that excavator again. So now I would place this guy probably around that seating area, that little pen of seats that they had outside of Earl of Sandwich. Traversing the path towards the backside that has changed our landscape, has changed our perspective of this. We can see things we couldn't see before, like cars.
Oh, just wait. When they start digging into Hollywoodland for Avatar, you think this looks crazy and weird? Dude, that's gonna look so bizarre when you can see clear through it. And I think people will be surprised. I really do. That area is much bigger than it seems. It's really hard though to imagine and wrap our head around, because we're so used to those buildings being there, you know. But man, when they remove those sound stages and the Monsters Inc. rat, dude, it's gonna be wild. It's gonna be crazy.
They circle. And the entrance to DCA. This is the back area. We were putting a lot of focus. There used to be a bunch of trees and a green scrim of some kind back in that space. Now it's just that brown wall. We can also see that both of the ticket booths are completely removed. Last week there was still some height left. You could see it over the construction wall. Both of those ticket booths look to be completely torn down at this point. Here's a longer view, and yeah, it's a very clean look now at this space. And then off in the distance, there's the excavator, and there's Earl of Sandwich doing more digging. He's turned around at this point. Boy, he's just, man, I haven't seen an excavator move that much in space. Usually it's just very focused and it's digging in one spot every time I watch one. But this guy's moving around in circles quite a bit. He's covering a lot of ground. That is current state of the ticket booths in downtown Disney. I want to take you guys to another story, perhaps the most stressful thing that we've seen so far. Thursday night, the monorail stopped. It just stopped on its track. This shot, it was just outside of what I think is.
Now, see, I'm claustrophobic, right? And it's funny because I tell people I'm claustrophobic. I don't like elevators. But then they're like, well, but you went on Tower of Terror and stuff. I'm like, yeah, but it's different, right? So my issue is being closed into like a giant tin box and not being able to get out, basically, right? If you needed to. Not the dropping part. The dropping part's no big deal. But Tower of Terror or Mission Breakout, it's a cage, right? And it's more open, where an elevator is a steel box and you have no way out of that. Well, anyway, long story short, this would trigger my claustrophobia, because typically the monorail, I'm fine when you're moving, but to be stuck in there in that little cabin and you don't know when they're going to come and get you, I'm telling that, for me, like you were saying, you're afraid of heights. This would bother me.
Yeah, no, 100%. And one of the things we look at is it's kind of, and I'm going to play devil's advocate here. It's kind of a blessing in disguise that this happened during a cold month and it didn't happen during the summer.
Oh
Because
man.
one big difference we have with our monorail compared to Walt Disney's monorail is ours usually gets shut down during the summer if it's extremely hot because we don't have air ventilation systems on our monorail compared to Walt Disney World that does. So that's a problem.
No, a huge problem. This would have been horrible in the summer. You're right, horrible. Now I got to ask you a question before I move on. You're going to Walt Disney World in March.
Yes.
Now I didn't do it because again, steel box that you can't get out of, the Skyliner. Now I'm claustrophobic. That's why I didn't do it. But now you don't like heights. So are you going to go on this thing?
I'm gonna if George wants to go on it, I'm gonna go along with the program because this is just the thing is for me with the gondola system out there.
Right.
Again, it gives me an idea of what to look forward to if Anaheim brings that gondola
That's
system
fair. Yeah.
to us. So I want to experience it years before they build theirs. So I have some idea of, what to experience if I use it.
Yeah.
Now, I agree with you. It's small, it's cramped, and it's high up in the air. So, and I'm relying on a cable. So
you might have to go the OG-55 route when I go on the Ferris wheel, which is have a drink before you get on that thing.
Yeah,
You might
no
have to,
kidding.
bro. You might have
I
to.
have to.
Is
I have
the
to, but-
Indiana Jones show building.
Oh,
They lost power.
I got you.
Oh no, I was just gonna say one more thing that kind of sum up what David's gonna get into about this monorail. I was there that night when it happened, and me and a buddy, he goes by Sigs the Storyteller on YouTube.
Yeah, and make sure everybody subscribe to Sigs. I actually we started following each other on Instagram the other day, so he's cool.
Nice. No, he's a great guy, and we were waiting in the outdoor queue of Haunted Mansion, and one of the things I don't know. Again, maybe they'll talk about it in this documentary that's coming out on January 22nd.
Right.
Of building Disneyland. But one of the things I saw was with the monorail losing power, there were multiple attractions that lost power at the same time. It's almost like a domino effect. It's like, okay, well, right there is where I think infrastructure somehow needs to change. Because, again, if you have the monorail go down, but then you have 4 or 5 other attractions go down, and I think it was the train station, Indiana Jones, what else was it? It was I think Pirates went down, not Haunted Mansion, but there was like 2 other attractions. It was ridiculous. And it increased the wait times like crazy. So that's something, I'm hoping in the future that they look at and try to change. Because, again, I know it'd be probably a huge pain in the butt.
Right.
But having a handful of attractions go down at the same time, that is not helpful. Now, I don't know if Walt Disney World's built the same way, but I could tell you it's a massive inconvenience when that does happen.
Yeah, no, it's not a good look. It's definitely not a good look.
The monorail lost power, and therefore, it couldn't propel itself, obviously, to get back to the station, and it was stuck here while they lost power for my understanding, for about 3.5 hours. I have heard from other sources that the train stopped at about 3:30 in the afternoon, which would put that 3.5 hours around 7 o'clock. However, this footage that I'm catching now, I caught live on a live stream that was done by a local news channel, and that was at 8 o'clock. So I think it might have been down perhaps even longer than that. They were still taking guests down on that ladder, hook and ladder from Anaheim Fire Department.
God.
And guests were having to be taken down one by one until they finally were able to get. There was 2 monorails on the tracks at the time. There was monorail red and monorail blue. They because people had been asking why did they use the the analog towing mechanism that they have. Well, they did. They were using that to push blue first because blue was ahead of red. They had to push blue back into the house first. You can't have 2 of those on the track at the same time, I guess, or maybe they don't have to. So while they were waiting for blue to do its thing, they were rescuing guests one at a time. And then eventually, as I understand it, there was actually a Fresh Baked Street Team member in that monorail that we're watching right now. They were in the monorail and they were reporting that at some point, eventually blue got handled. They were able to bring back the tow machine back to red, and they were able to get red to the house. So that they didn't have to evacuate everybody on using the ladder system. One thing that I want to add here is that per the reports that we have from inside that monorail red, everybody was awesome. Guests were awesome. The crew, the Disneyland crew were awesome. The monorail conductor was keeping people entertained for hours while he was, they were keeping the energies and spirits up. Disneyland cast were great. The fire department was great. Everything went as well as you could possibly hope under such stressful conditions. And so I want to congratulate and commend Disney for handling this with the professionalism that they did. And just understand that this is sometimes a thing that happens from time to time at the Disneyland Resort.
Well,
as stressful as it is,
hats off to everybody and the heroes, the firefighters who facilitated that whole situation, the cast members. Yeah, I mean that's incredible. How do they get all those people? I mean, how do they get those people out of there and onto that ladder? Because I would imagine some people are going to get panicky with that kind of height going down that ladder. How do they get people that are like super, like, their cortisol is through the fucking roof? How do you get those people out of that monorail and onto that ladder? I don't know. It looked like they had some people like on like almost like stretchers or something too at some point. I don't know. Like maybe you lay down and they carry you down, like, or I don't know how that really works, but
I'm not exactly sure. If I had to guess, they probably asked the guests that because you have to think about it, each cabin has their own door. So it's not one big long corridor of seats.
Right.
So each cabin they went to, they probably asked, hey, if you want to get off right now, you can come with us on the ladder. We'll guide you down. If you don't feel comfortable, let us know how you're feeling. If you're feeling, have any medical issues, we'll send paramedics up. If not, the tow vehicle is on its way. We'll push you back to the station and we'll meet you guys there. We'll provide medical assistance and all that. So I'm sure there was a handful of people that were willing to do it, but there was also lots of people that didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would be one of those people that would.
No, if you don't like heights, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I completely, and our good friend, Mr. Webba, he doesn't like heights either. Like a lot of people don't like heights, and that's a big thing. I mean, you're going down that ladder. I don't even mind heights, but even I would be like, ooh, I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
Windy that night too.
Right. You can see the ladder kind of moving. I can see you in the monorail going, you know what? I'll just wait for the power to come back on. Just bring me a drink from Lamplight Lounge. I'll just wait for you guys. I'm not going down that freaking ladder. Hell no.
Yeah.
It's still, you still have to try to endure and make the best of it as you can. The net result of this is that the monorail was closed for the rest of that night, obviously, and it was closed all day Friday as well. I was checking in on that status. We were there on site to saw that the chain was up and the monorail was closed. But as of this morning, I'm looking at the app now this morning, and the monorail has reopened as of Saturday, but it was closed for the rest of the day, Thursday and Friday. Meanwhile, speaking of, that's the scene right here where we're looking right now. That's exactly where the monorail broke down in that space. That's the Indiana Jones show building behind those palm trees. And as that Disneyland tram goes by, that's right about exactly right there is about where they were rescuing guests from Monorail Red. You'll note, by the way, that Disneyland tram that is cutting through our frame as we speak is making a U-turn. And look at that. And that tram, by the way, that's turning a little bit quicker. It's making its U-turn in a spot that it doesn't normally do that. Want to take this opportunity to remind you guys of our preferred travel affiliate, Getaway Today. If you're looking to book a trip to Disneyland, Walt Disney World, Alani, on a cruise or whatever, use our friends, link in the description to make those plans. You won't regret it. Getaway Today is incredibly helpful, kind, intelligent, informative. They've got their stuff together. And while using Getaway Today, not only are you getting excellent customer service, the best in the business, you're also helping to support a small family-owned business, and you're helping to support Fresh Baked. Thank you guys for using Getaway Today, and I hope you guys have a great trip.
By the way, speaking of the Disneyland tram and Earl's Sandwich, we reported a few weeks ago that they might be adjusting guest access into this space, and I'm now hearing that, yeah, that is going to happen, because where I'm walking now, these walls for Earl's Sandwich are going to come out even further to make so that they can demo, because they can't demo this without bringing in heavy equipment on this side right here, right? So this path, these walls are going to come out here, which isn't a problem for that, section of downtown Disney, but guests who are trying to go back and forth through downtown Disney in this direction, it's going to block that access. These walls are going to come out and block that access, so you can't get down to downtown Disney. So they're going to have to reroute those pedestrians, those guests, those walking guests, and this becomes the main access to the rest of downtown Disney. And if you make this the main access, the guest path, these guests are all coming off the Disneyland tram, but you can't mix these guests with all that traffic with regular downtown Disney guests, right? You don't want to do that. That would create a huge problem, I'm guessing. Hey guys. So that basically means you can't have pickup and drop off here. You can't have pickup and drop off in this section. And I hear they're already testing the new method at night, but it could be a full-time thing. The trams that come in they're gonna drop off. Typically, that's just drop off for half the trams. The other half of the trams will drop off here. They're going to make that area across the street permanent pickup and drop off for both guests, right? And so they're going to have to, and those guests who are coming in are going to have to walk up that path right there. When they're leaving the park and they want to go back to the Mickey and Friends parking structure, they're going to have to walk up to this route. There may even be other tests just to see what is convenient for both Disneyland and guests, other ways of getting people across the street rather than coming in from that direction right there from what would be the exit, because then again you've got multiple directions of guests. You got guests coming out of Disneyland, right? Coming out of Disneyland and into the pickup area, but also guests leaving, getting off the tram, like these guests are right here, getting off the tram and going in. If you have that, let's say
that's interesting. Not a lot of people are reporting on this. I think this is the first time I'm hearing it from Dave, but that's kind of crazy that they're doing this whole thing with the tram to fit this Portos in there. That's wild to me. And it kind of blows my mind a little bit, like the logistical changes that have happened with the trams the last maybe 4 or 5 years. Because there was a moment when the parks reopened, we didn't even have trams. Remember, we had to walk down the tram route, and stuff like that. And now they're rerouting it. It's just crazy, like all the different changes happening over the past few years. But I don't know. Anyway, we'll see. It's going to be very interesting. And also, to your point too, Conductor, you mentioned the last time we did one of these videos, that fountain that sits right across from Portos, big question mark. Is that thing going to survive? We'll see. I'm not so sure.
2 o'clock in the afternoon, you're going to have a cross section of guests, and that could become a problem. So they may have to try to find another way to divert the guests that are trying to get back to Mickey and Friends. Now, there are 2 zones, just like there are on this side. There's that zone there, and there's another zone up there. Both of these are functioning. So maybe they set one aside, one for pickup, one for drop off, or vice versa, pickup and drop off, whichever is more convenient.
As for Earl's itself, there is demo happening. There you go. You can see that while it doesn't look like much, the eaves have been taken down. This is moving, by the way, quicker than we've seen.
See, my only concern with that is because I love David's idea if that's what Disney's going to do. The problem I have is then why put scaffolding up? I thought
Yeah.
that was literally the point of them putting scaffolding up and that scrim was to have it down, and as the excavator or construction vehicles are ripping into the building,
Right.
the scrim would block dust from shooting out into the esplanade, shooting out into this walkway here. But now it's like, well, now you're saying that if they move the construction walls all the way out and block that path entirely for that one little walkway, then what was the point of building all this scaffolding if they have to now tear it down and probably rebuild it again? That was almost
Yeah.
like stupid.
Yeah, I don't understand that either, to be honest.
Seen other demos happening like at Tortilla Joe's. They're moving pretty briskly. Change is happening fast here at downtown Disney, faster than I would have expected. Although I think last week I said we might see this building come down in maybe 2 weeks or so, significantly faster than we saw at Tortilla Joe's. And that's because I think that there is a certain sense of urgency to get these things moved forward because of the stress that it's going to be putting on crowd management and guest services and that sort of thing. They want to get this done as quickly as possible. With that, we'll return to the Pixar Palaron to check in on Avengers Infinity Defense, where I do feel like we're going to see in a little bit, stay tuned, there's going to be less stress very soon, I believe, on guests as it relates to access between Cars Land and Avengers Campus. But for now, we can observe that we're still kind of in a stuck situation visually anyway. Looking at the Avengers Infinity Defense structure, it's about as we left it. That restroom, though, looks to be or has achieved its full height almost everywhere. It looks like they've actually finally finished that shell. We're going to have more to say on that in a minute. But from this perspective, Avengers Infinity Defense looks to be making progress, filling out, getting depth inside the building. I do think that we might be getting into that stage of enveloping the project site and then working on the interiors very soon. We're going to move to Luigi's and Cars Land to take a look at that restroom. We're talking about this is where I think stress is going to be relieved a little bit soon. I don't think we're very far off now. I think that now that we've got that shell built, they still have to put the veneers or the facade up on that building and build the insides. But I think they've done all the hardest parts of this process, and it's going to start going downhill. We could see this thing open up, I think, maybe in a few months, perhaps, maybe 3 or 4 months. As I was looking at it from this perspective, though, I noticed I couldn't see anything. And that's when it dawned on me, they've moved those walls out. Those walls are much further in than they were before. And that's because they are getting into the next phase of this construction. This is because they're about to do more in terms of concrete and starting to fill in that surface. It's probably dirt back there. It has been dirt for a long time. They're going to start putting in that surface on that side of things, which is a great sign of things to change. There's a view of Avengers of Infinity Defense through Luigi's, and then back on the other side at Avengers Campus, where again, the truss system and all that looks to be about as we've seen in the past. Not a lot of visual change there. Not expecting any, but I do believe in the next few months we're going to see that move on to the next phase of development. And here behind or inside the ancient sanctum, you can see there's just one little gap, one little section left where they have to finish putting in those cinder blocks, and that closes. And then when they're done with that, that'll close up the whole thing. Meanwhile, on the other side, okay, we talked about this story a couple months ago, I think at least. There was permits filed to convert the old Tower of Terror Fast Pass station into seating. Walls are up. Yeah. Which means it looks like they're finally ready to.
I like this. And I like this, number one, because this area needs more seating. I mean, it really needs more seating for food and what have you. But aside from that, one of my big issues with Mission Breakout is that it always felt kind of separate from like the main Avengers campus. And I think bringing this seating area, kind of having it straddle between Breakout and the main land, I think subconsciously, like aesthetically, will kind of bring these two little areas together more cohesively, I feel like. So I like that. I think it's going to bring everything in and kind of tie it in together, make it feel like Breakout is more like an actual part of the Avengers campus. Because right now it feels very separate.
It does. And I'm hoping with this seating area as well, which I would hope they would do it, is theme it to either Guardians or Avengers Campus. Period.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I would certainly hope so. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah.
To make that happen, they're going to build, because there's not enough places to sit and eat at Avengers Campus. I'm very grateful that they're doing this, because that fast pass station was useless for obvious reasons. With that, let's segue over to Disneyland real quick for another instance of change, though in this case, it's not a stressful change. I do feel like it's an additive. It's a positive change. 3D printing has made its debut at the Jungle Cruise. They've built that canoe that you're looking at right there in the queue area for Jungle Cruise has been 3D printed. This is the first ever 3D printed prop ever used at Disneyland, and it's kind of exciting. Like I said, I feel like this is a good thing in a lot of ways. I know it's not the traditional method of building things in the past, but those old methods were less reliable. They tend to rot and fade, and we're going to talk about that rot in just a minute, because it's relevant to what's happening at the Jungle Cruise, in fact. But Disney they wouldn't use 3D printing because one-off ride props like this, the printing is faster. It's lighter. It's easier to replace. They don't use hobby plastic. It's industrial fiber reinforced material, as opposed to something like I said before, where like maybe it's traditional wood, and over time, the water and everything would cause it to degrade. Once they create the file that they use to base the 3D model off of, which, by the way, is an exact copy of the canoe that was there before that they're replacing, they can make this exact piece anytime without starting over. It'd be super easy to do. And this scene right here is what I'm talking about when it comes to rot. That deck right there is something we've been watching for more than a year now. And Jungle Cruise is going through, or is going to be closing. And one of the things that I've been speculating is that rotting wood on that deck is one of the subjects of the refurb, and that could line up.
It's funny though. It is funny though. Like, there's certain attractions that you can get away with stuff like this, and I think Jungle Cruise is one of those attractions. It makes it feel more organic, more like a real river when you have the green marks and the mold and the it just looks more realistic. I don't know. Like, for me personally, right? I just feel like Indiana Jones is the same thing. I think even Tony Baxter talked about that, where the older Indiana Jones gets, the better it's going to look, because the temple's going to age and get more weathered over the years. Stuff like this, I don't mind it. Now, if this was in Tomorrowland, oh man, that'd be a horrible show. But here, it kind of looks cool, man. It kind of makes it look more realistic, in my opinion.
It does. With the fact that we've got this 3D printed canoe out here in the water, maybe they're going to do a 3D printing of this deck as well. That's a fascinating situation, and I can't wait to find out how that develops. Look for Jungle Cruise to be closing mid-month in February. With that, let's get out to the city streets of Anaheim to check in on what's going on with regard to the Eastern Gateway, the new parking structure. Did a drive-by. Didn't really see much in the way of new developments, except there was actual construction happening right here on Harbor and Disney Way. I wasn't able to really get a good look at it because I was on the road, but there were crews out here on Disney Way, and they were actually what I can tell you what they were doing.
This off to your right is the Anaheim Hotel, I believe it's called, or Anaheim Motel, whatever. Pretty cool little spot. I've stopped in there actually to use the restroom, walking to the Anaheim main gate. But I've gone in there, and they got a cool little like mid-century vibe in there. I don't know. I'm curious. I might stay there one day. It's more like it's a smaller sort of hotel or motel or whatever, but it has like that old like mid-century style to it. It looks pretty cool. They got like an old school little bar in there. It looks pretty, I don't know, I thought it looked pretty cool.
Nice.
Doing is closing up with new asphalt an area where they had cut open, just like we saw previously out in front of the entrance to Disneyland. They were closing up a previously exposed below grade, electrical setup. So that's happening right now. We also have from the street team these images from Dillon Hall at night, where you can see that they were actively working on that intersection, plus two new construction signs popped up in the same space. This one is just outside the Anaheim Hotel, which you can see right there on Disney Way, informing guests further of all the action that's about to take place. Thanks to Dillon Hall for those shots, and thanks to Maury. This one's fascinating. Maury posted this image to the Fresh Baked app, freshbakedpresents.com. That's the Hojo cam. I don't know if you guys know, Howard Johnson has a camera posted on top of their hotel that looks into the Disneyland Resort and around the surrounding areas. One of those cameras one of those views is of Harbor Boulevard, and the Hojo cam actually picked up this is wonderful. They actually picked up one of those black and white checkered squares. That's Harbor Boulevard, which is fascinating. And we're going to see another one here in just a second. You guys, those things are popping up all over the place. It's on. It's on. This one is from Momsy. Momsy's posting this one from inside the Toy Story parking lot. Where I'm parked right now, waiting for that red light, is a direct shot into the Toy Story lot. You would find that square up ahead and to the left inside once you pass through that threshold. So those squares are popping up in places that are unexpected, to say the least. This last one inside the Toy Story parking lot. I find that this is it's becoming, I'm really liking this. It's becoming a bit of a game, like a scavenger hunt that we're having, both myself looking eyes out always, as well as the Fresh Baked Street team getting all kinds of posts on this on our app on freshbakedpresents.com. I could not be more happy and more proud of our fans for getting involved.
Yeah, no, big shout out to the Fresh Baked fans. Big shout out to Dave himself for doing this stuff, and this is the stuff that makes it fun. It's always cool to ride the new thing. But a lot of the fun for me over the years has been watching the stuff happen and speculating on what's going to happen, and then them digging into it and kind of oh, dang, that's how they're going to do it. It's really fun. It's kind of like Star Wars, right? I think a lot of the fun with Star Wars when it came to the lead up to the sequel trilogy and what have you, regardless of whether people liked the movies or didn't like the movies, but a lot of the fun of that whole thing was the fact that of speculating what's going to happen.
Exactly.
It's just nerdy fun, so that's what this is.
On this, and just having their eyes and ears open to change that's happening. And it's helping us to describe and to inform on the changes that are happening at Disneyland. Some of them stressful, some of them signs of forward progress. Speaking of which, let's get back to downtown Disney, where we can see progress happening at the Earl of Sandwich. This is the backside of Earl of Sandwich, and you can see, oh look, they built a little jail down there. There's going to be the Earl of Sandwich jail coming soon to downtown Disney. This is for people who perhaps can't figure out what they want to order from the menu. They're holding everybody up. I kid, of course, but there you go. The great news from the Earl of Sandwich is progress. Not only are we seeing visible things being built here, but we can also hear them. As we're making our way around the site, there was lots and lots of action. All right, it is on at Earl's. This is exciting. It's on, and you can hear all kinds of stuff up there, as I sure have said. You can hear
the way he came into that, threw me. I was like, what? It kind of surprised me, right?
You're cutting tools, hammering. There's lights on. There's crew in there. That's the most action, most movement I've seen through the scrim in 6 months at least, right? Those lights are never on before, and now I can actually see construction crew there on the steel framework. So they are building the inside, the guts of that building now. Looks like things are wrapping up at the Lego store, although we can't see it. That the Lego structure is done. I took a peek through that scrim, and it looks like the the concrete, the floor, the surface has been done, so that should happen pretty soon. No change except at Tortilla Joe's, except for that bucket. That bucket wasn't there before.
Hey, conductor, you said you were really upset they tore this thing down to let it sit. Has your mind changed now? They added a bucket.
Not really. It looks like I could have thrown that bucket over the wall.
I know, right? It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Yeah, I'm hearing all kinds of rumors. I'm hearing there were permit problems. I'm hearing there was vendor problems. So I don't really know, but it's disappointing. It really is disappointing. Hey, you know what? Disney, call the Korean barbecue spot that they're putting in City Walk. Call them up and say, hey, you want to build another location out here? Let's go. Let's do this.
Exactly.
I can't wait to see how that develops. Grizzly River Run is closed. It's down for its seasonal refurb. We took a tour around and we just saw what you normally would see. The water's been drained out of the river. Everything has been turned off. There's some electrical tape here. That's or not electrical tape, caution tape. Well, electrical tape. There's caution tape on that observation area. That's weird. The wheel is off. No rafts, obviously, and everything is drained. Routine maintenance here at Grizzly River Run. You can see scrim and scaffold on the backside. Well, actually, just scaffold at this point on the backside of Grizzly. It looks like Napa is perhaps getting close to finishing. I don't see any sort of active work being done here in that outdoor area, and I've heard rumor that training has already begun for staff at Napa. So look for that to possibly happen. Maybe late January or early February. I found this.
Okay. I'm going to state the obvious because I've only been sick for a couple days now. And we just did a reaction to Dave's video, what? Maybe a week ago, maybe a week and some change. So how in the hell did they go down the studs from the last time we did a reaction video to now all of a sudden they're training staff? Did they just magically, like overnight, throw walls up, throw, utilities in, all sorts of?
Not sure. Yeah, it's crazy. Now I'm not really sure. All I know is this project has taken way too long. Way too long. It's been almost,
especially for a hotel like the Grand Cali. The Grand Cali is it's pretty much almost a 5-star hotel, and to have a restaurant like that going this long under construction, it's like it's almost unjustified. It's like what the hell's going on here?
It's crazy.
At Soarin' around the world, a digital sign pointing the way to tell guests where to board Soarin'.
I hate that. In Tomorrowland, I'd be fine with this, but dude, that kills the whole vibe. This is like a national park thing, and you got a digital screen. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just being a douchey fanboy, but that is not a good look, in my opinion.
No. So I could see those digital signs, like you said, in Tomorrowland,
Avengers Campus,
exactly, stuff like that. But when you're when the whole theme section is, California National Parks, it's nature.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with technology. And it's like, why do you need that sign anyway? It's almost like saying, oh, look we're getting rid of more cast members. We're going to utilize this instead.
Well, at least dress it up. Like for example, they have digital screens on like Main Street, right? For like wait times and stuff like that, right? But it's a digital screen like that's housed in like this Victorian Main Streety kind of thing.
Yeah, it's themed.
Right, it's themed. So if you're gonna do the screen thing here, at least have it like in a wooden box that fits the area. I don't know. That's a bad look. Hopefully that's temporary.
Over there, I mean, there's just no there's no polite way. I just cannot understand that decision. I want to know mostly what created the need for them to make that decision. Like, what information did they get that said we got to put that sign out there? Because it is It is so incongruous with what's happening in Grizzly Peak. That digital sign is the last thing you should be finding in a national park. Just that alone is, you know, if you want to make a sign that says this way, don't make it digital. Paint a sign.
Right.
But even that's not even why. It's not necessary. How do you not know? There cannot be people saying, I don't know how to get into Soarin'. Where do I go? And that sign doesn't tell you anything else.
I agree with him, by the way, on everything you said. I mean, 100%. The digital screen, even the graphics, the animated graphics on the screen don't match the area. It's kind of ridiculous. But I'm wondering if Soarin' is seeing a downtick in numbers. And I wonder if that's a way that Disney sort of like, you know, kind of get people to ride it or something. Because that's interesting that they would do that. Maybe it's seeing less attendance. I don't know. A very odd decision.
It tells you literally nothing else except that way. It's just an arrow pointing to the entrance. It's not like giving you the wait time or any kind of status, open, closed, 1 theater, 2 theaters. That is the most useless, incongruent, dumbest thing I think I've ever seen. I do not get it.
That takes us to the Hollywood backlot, where I want to update you guys on what's happening here with regard to Monsters, Inc. and Avatar. We thought we would have a date by now for the closure of Monsters, Inc. We don't. And I think it's because they no longer know when that attraction is going to close. They no longer have an idea, that they've had to change their plans. For good or bad, I'm not sure. I do think that, you know, most of the signs we're seeing, even though it's been stressful, most of the signs we've been seeing is about forward progress and things happening in the park and getting momentum going towards this update that we're getting within Downtown Disney, Disneyland Forward, Avatar, all that considered. But we still don't have a date for Monsters, Inc. So we're going to be looking out for that. I will say, though, speaking of monorails, something that I've heard is possible. You can obviously see there's a very close relationship between the monorail and the Monsters, Inc. building and Stage 17, for that matter. A very close relationship. It's possible they may have to close the monorail. People have been talking about it. We're hearing whispers that they may close the monorail at some point in order to demo those buildings. And for obvious reasons, just like we saw at Parkside Market, there is a proximity to those tracks and the need for, you need to make room for that heavy equipment.
If they do, I think it'll be temporary. I think it'll be just long enough for them to destroy the building, kind of like what's happening with Earl's Sandwich, Porto's and the Disneyland Tram. They only need just to get that big equipment in there. We saw something like this when they were when they were building Parkside Market. They had to close the monorail down. It was like a month, maybe 3 or 4 weeks, if I recall, so that they could fit stuff in there and not have it be in the way of the actual monorail. I don't think, though, that it's going to be a permanent thing where they have to reroute the track or anything like that.
I don't think
it is my belief that they are going to let the monorail exist inside that Avatar experience, inside that Avatar themed land. It is perfectly reasonable thematically, as I've said in the past, to have a monorail exist in that space. So I don't think it's a problem. Not to mention, the monorail is already going through other thematically incongruent places like Fantasyland. Monorail goes through Fantasyland.
That's true.
So I don't think it's a problem for them to have that exist. They may have to close it temporarily for certain stages of development, this demo or going vertical at some point. But that should be it.
A couple more quick stops. We're almost done, guys. A couple more. Galactic Grill. Scrim and Scaffold up at Galactic Grill. This is kind of surprising. I did no reports of this. It could just, or probably is, just paint and polish. Yeah. Nothing to worry about, but that is an interesting thing. We'll keep an eye on that. Still no water at the Matterhorn. Troubadour is still under construction walls in Scrim. And they've actually put construction walls now up at the Fantasyland Theater as well, getting that ready for the Bluey Show. The next time they take those walls down, or the next time that theater's open,
we'll wrap this up with
for the Bluey Show.
Trip through the refurb calendar as it exists.
All right, so a great video from Dave, as always. We love Dave, Fresh Baked. A lot of crazy stuff happening right now, which I love. I love construction season. at Disney. It's one of my favorites. I absolutely love it. Watching this stuff grow. The DCA projects are very, very exciting because there's a lot of question marks around those projects. So it's gonna be very interesting to kind of see how all those things shape out. But Conductor, it's always a pleasure and an honor having you join me. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, brother?
No, basically all I wanted to add towards the end for what David was saying about the monorail in that area for the Hollywood backlot.
Yeah.
I don't think that direction is going to change. I think it's going to stay. But like I was saying earlier on Bricky's video with the third gate, I think at some point they will extend the monorail and Garden Walk will be a future site of another Disney hotel built like the Contemporary, and there's going to be a station somewhere on the at the third gate, and we're going to see another station at probably the Simba parking lot at some point in the future. I do think that is going to happen, but like David said, he made a great point. You have the monorail going right through Fantasyland. You don't see a tunnel covering it. You don't see any type of, facades covering the monorail passing right through. So for all we know, it's going to go right through Pandora. Is it going to be weird? Yeah, but
it might
be reality.
Yeah, it might. I think though, my heart of hearts tells me, and it might just go through with no blockage. I think they're going to use the rock work in clever ways to block.
I would hope so.
Yeah, to block most of it. I mean, you're never going to get it perfect. You're always going to see some of it coming in and out, but I think they'll do some clever rock work stuff. But it's gonna be crazy, dude. But Mr. Conductor, it's good to have you back, brother. I know you're getting over the your cold and everything. I hope you feel better soon. If you can remind everybody where they can find you on social media so they can subscribe to your content.
Absolutely. And I want to thank you, Orange Grove 55, for always being a wonderful host and always coming on my channel on Conductor Sunday live stream to talk the theme parks. It's always a great time. I'm glad we started this reaction video series on your channel. It's so awesome to kind of bounce ideas off of videos that are coming from Bricky, coming from David, and some of these other content creators. I'm sure we're gonna dive into into the future as well.
Yeah,
but one of the things I love about this, like you said, you love construction season at the Disneyland Resort. The way I see it is we're finally starting to see the promises happen, even though they shouldn't have happened. They shouldn't have started a couple years ago, which I'm still going to hold tight to my chest about, but at least we're seeing it now. And some of the things we've seen in the last couple of days, like Darth Vader going in the Galaxy's Edge, that is something that we can all agree the fans have been wanting since the land opened. And that is a footstep in the right direction. And to see all this other stuff, seeing DCA getting most of the love. And don't get me wrong, Disneyland won't be ignored.
no,
For these next 10 years of the 60 billion they want to invest, Disneyland will get some love. I could promise you that.
Yeah,
But DCA is the main focal point of the next 5 years. It needs significant help. And I'm glad it's getting it, because God only knows that I commend Eisner for some of the things he did. I think there were things in the 1.0 version of DCA that he cheaped out on, that he didn't add in, that he changed, like WESTCOT, for example, and other things. So I'm glad that DCA is getting the attention. But again, I have strong hopes for tomorrow, which, again, we speculate all day long that he's probably going to be the CEO, and he
Yeah.
probably is.
He probably
know,
is right now. Like,
yeah,
you know, he's probably running more. He probably was already chosen. He's probably making decisions right now. I just have that. I can just, I can feel the vibe is different at Disney right now with all the big changes happening. I feel like he's low key doing his thing, you know?
Oh yeah. No, 100%. That's awesome. That's what I want to see. So when Disney comes and approaches me through an email and says, "Oh, it's that time of year again to renew your Inspire key, and it's this price," now I can officially say I could justify paying for that Inspire key.
Yep.
Even though we're still a long ways away from that, at least I'm seeing the signs.
If your
At
money's
least
going towards, yeah.
Exactly. So I don't mind paying the price as I did 6 months ago when we're like, okay, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
So
It's crazy.
there's still a lot of improvement, but we'll wait and see. But again, thank you so much for
Yeah.
having me back on. You could find me Theme Park Conductor on YouTube and Blue Sky, at Theme Park Conductor on Instagram at theme_park_conductor, on X at Theme Conductor, TikTok at Theme Park Conductor 1, and every Sunday at 5 or 7 p.m. for Conductor Sunday live stream, where we have amazing guests like the one and only Orange Grove 55 and so many others as we break down Disney and Universal news. And a programming note, obviously you guys could probably hear it. My throat's kind of still acting up a little bit from the flu that's been going around. So not this Sunday, but the following Monday on the 26th, I will have that live stream with Orange Grove 55 and Sam Chat. So definitely
Yes,
stay
sir.
tuned.
Absolutely. Thank you, Conductor. And thank you all so much for watching this episode of OG 55. Comment down below with all your thoughts on the Dave video, the Bricky video. We would love to hear from you. And until the next time.
Thank you so much for watching OG55. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and become a member today.